All right.
Not for long. You are the students, and I have asked you to pull out your chart that we talked about yesterday with the informational text structures. So this chart was day 2, and then this is day 3 of our lesson on text structures. And I've asked you, while I take attendance and handle things like that, to do your bell work, and that is to write the 5 types of text structure on the front of your booklet. So using your artistic work here, they just put those 5 structures on the front just to familiarize themselves with the vocabulary and get used to the spelling of those words, because that's in our goal for today. That's our language goal. Our vocabulary goal is when you're talking with your partners, you need to use these words and these text structures. Our content goal for the day is text structure, and our social goal for the day was to be working on respect, in particular when we're going to be working with groups later. So we've gone through the goals for the day. The agenda is usually written up on the board. And now that I've taken attendance, I ask you to move on from the text structures to take a look at that first page. Not familiar with how to run. I'm used to having a smart board. There we go. Let's see. And you'll notice as you look through this packet, there are different page numbers on the bottom, T1 through T5, and then we'll get to the student pages when you have S1 through S5, because the students are always interested in what's going on there. And this is the passage that we talked about yesterday, and notice how I have highlighted and marked some clue words and signal words. And then also, not only did I mark those words, I actually labeled it with the word description. Because when I get down to that bottom sentence, it's still morning, but it looks as if night is falling, is one of those signal words that you see in your chart. And so I know this is describing and giving us visual details. If you turn to T2, you'll notice another passage that we listened to yesterday. Again, from the book on volcanoes. And notice here what I've written and underlined as well. So this is what we want you to be doing, noticing those signal words and then stopping and jotting down what structure it is. So I underlined steps to lessen their risks because the chapter was on survival skills and how can families that live near volcanoes be prepared. So that's the problem that I noted at the top, and I even wrote it there, how can we be prepared? And then I underlined several different solutions there. They want the roofs to be strong enough to support ash. They need those protective walls, and families would also have a disaster kit. As you move on to T3, this passage we haven't looked at, but it's out of the same book with the crumbling mountain. And I did mark this time and highlight the dates and the times, and I want you to talk with your elbow partners about what structure we should label this passage as. I need an elbow partner, yeah. Good, and I'm hearing some of the groups say that it is time and order, so please label that either with just that abbreviation T/O for time and order, or actually write the word time across the top of there. So we have an example of time order or chronological order. when we look at T4, we need you to turn it sideways there a little bit. And again, with this section, I already did the highlighting. Notice in the bottom of that first paragraph on where to find a volcano, it says most volcanoes form where two of these plates meet. And then the next paragraph starts out with not all volcanoes form at the edges of plates. Some form over hot spots. So turn and talk to your elbow partners about what text structure you think that is, and go ahead and label it on your paper. Good, I like how people are using their abbreviations on there. Patricia, what's your group thinking?
We're talking about it's most like compare and contrast.
It is. And what are the clue words there that you're seeing that give you some signals to that?
The most, some, not all.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking as well. I have one more passage then for you to take a look at on T5. Take a look at that with your elbow partner and label that structure example as well. And typically my class is a lot louder than this when they're talking to their elbow partners. And then because I have a smart board, I'm usually writing the abbreviations up there. So for that last one, compare and contrast, I would label it with C and C. And then with this one, what do you think we should label it, Kelly?
Cause and effect.
It is. And what do you notice about the cause and effect? Any clue words there?
Well, when I read it, I noticed that the ash and debris is blocking up the sunlight, so that's what's causing the sunlight to go away.
Yes. And not always do they use the word cause or because, so sometimes we have to make those connections on our own. Anyone else see any other text structures? And usually the kids will notice that 1816 and talk about time order. And then in that same sentence, the year without summer is caused by the Tambora volcano. And they're usually interested that it lasted for several years. And someone usually notices the top as well, the caption there that goes with a picture on the other page. Volcanic ash can cause wildly colorful sunsets. And so then we talk about that, how sometimes one page has several cause and effect examples, but then you also notice some of the other structures like time order in there as well. Turn and talk to your elbow partners about all 5 text structures and what we're going to be looking for today. And also talk about volcanoes, because they usually have some sort of a story to tell about that. And then as there's a lull, I pull the kids back and ask any comments or questions for the good of the class, anything else that we need to share. Yes?
So we noticed on T5 that even the caption kind of has a cause and effect. So it talks about how the eruption cooled the temperature of the entire planet.
Oh, good. Then what I do is I have the students in their group decide who's going to be a 1, a 2, and a 3, and a 4. And so usually the front row and the third row turn, and that makes that pod, that group. And they have to assign themselves a page, who's going to be S1, S2, S3, and 4. And then 5 seemed a little bit harder, so I left that as optional, so when they're finished with their group, they could move on to that one. Or if I had a group that needed to be challenged, then I would assign that one as well. So what we need you to do right now is to get into groups of 4 or 5, 4, and decide who's going to be S1, S2, S3, and S4.
I'll grab it. Right, Nellie, what number do you want to be?
No, all we're doing is deciding who's going to be S1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to meet in our corners. We need S1s to meet over here in the corner by the door. We need the S2s to meet over here, S3s and S4s. And that's when you're going to be reading with your group. Everybody's on the same article, reading and doing your own highlighting, looking for those signal words and trying to label what structures that you notice. And you should notice at least one text structure before you stop working. So, yeah, we've got 1s over here. 3s. 4s, okay. So read out loud with your group, underline and label.